Hi guys, we are live. How's everybody doing? Looks like we got a little bit of a delay here right now. I'm not sure why that is. Not sure what happened with the delay there, but sorry about that. Looks like we are recording and we are live though. What'd you guys think about Kyle Nelson? That dude is incredible. That guy, I can't believe he's not in the UFC already. Obviously, I think he should be. I thought he interviewed very well. I enjoyed watching those fights with him when I looked him up today. And hey, how's it going, Dean? Thanks for tuning in, man. I had an interview with Kyle Nelson, one of the top featherweights in Canada right now. You have to check that out later. And we got a lot to talk about today for sure. One of them is, of course, Jon Jones. It looks like Jon Jones may be back in the UFC for time served. That's kind of the way that it's looking. At this point, very, very strange if you ask me, but that seems to be where it's at right now. His coach said 95% chance he thought that Jon Jones would be back in the UFC with time served. The sentencing's going to be February 27th. He's going to be before the commission, and they'll make a final decision there. And everything I've heard from the UFC, everything I've heard from Jeff Nowitzki, you watch Joe Rogan, a lot of this other stuff going on. Yo, what's up, Cap? But yeah, a lot of this stuff going on. It looks like there's a lot of push to get Jon Jones back in there quickly. And I don't know who he'd be fighting first. Thanks, Cap. I do have a new webcam there. My wife's making me a logo that's going to sit on the backdrop there. And it's going to look really nice. She's already shown me the prototype and everything. But does it sicken you to see Jon Jones probably coming back so soon? I don't know. I have some mixed feelings about it. Obviously, I want to see him fighting. I mean, he's entertaining. I don't know who he's going to fight first, but hopefully not Cormier. But what happens if Cormier beats DC? Do they have a third fight at heavyweight? I don't see Jon Jones going back down to light heavyweight and beating up on light heavyweights that aren't DC. He cleared out that division, obviously. And then Alexander Gustafsson called out Luke Rockhold, which I thought that was pretty interesting. He calls a guy out after a loss. That's not usually the way that they do it, but he's going to need a big name in there. And who is there in that division that he hasn't already beat? He's pretty much cleared out everybody that's not named Jon Jones or Daniel Cormier. So, I mean, I guess he wants to bring guys up. But Luke Rockhold's chin has looked suspect at best recently, getting knocked out by Michael Bisping. And then, of course, Yoel Romero. That was pretty brutal that we seen on Saturday. But if anything, of course, Jon Jones, he's always entertaining. He's always entertaining. The Premier Fight League's continuing to sign more names. This is Ray Cephalo, World Series of Fighting's new thing, $10 million tournament, $1 million per weight class. What's going on, Seven? Will Brooks in the UFC, of course famous for beating Michael Chandler twice in Bellator, taking the belt from him. Won his first fight in the UFC over Ross Pearson. Then he dropped 3 in a row. The UFC did not cut him. Will Brooks actually decided not to re-sign, to forgo signing with the UFC right now to enter the PFL's $1 million tournament. And that's the way he said it. Pulse Reloaded. DC is holding 205 hostage. Guess was right to call out Luke. Well, he's right to call out somebody. I mean, he... You know, he should be fighting for that belt. I imagine he's going to be fighting for an interim belt anytime soon, especially for as long as that fight's going to take to set up with DC and Luke Rockhold, because you're going to have that whole Ultimate Fighter thing, which doesn't start till, what, April? And then how long's that going to take, you know, to air through? 2-3 months. And then they fight in probably July, maybe. And then if DC loses, I mean, he just goes back down to light heavyweight or what? I think he retires if he beats Stipe. You're right, Cap. He did clear out the division. That's a good point. He absolutely cleared out the division. Well, I got you on here, Cap. What do you think of the feud over Tyrone Woodley and Dana White? Rashad Evans came out and said, don't do that. That's not a good idea. So I don't want to see. I love T Wood. I think he's a good guy. The more I hear him, the more I like him. And I've seen Tito Ortiz do this. I've seen the Diaz brothers run into problems with Dana White. You just don't want to mess with the boss here. There's no upside to it. Yeah, I agree with you. Rashad is right. And Rashad, you know, lost a lot of time in his career maybe because of it. He also had a lot of success, but maybe he could have had more, and maybe he could have been promoted more by the UFC if that were the case. I just hope to see T Wood in there quickly. It looks like he's not going to be fighting against Nate Diaz. I don't think he's a liar at all. I don't think T Wood or Nate Diaz made anything up, to be quite honest. What I think the thing was we're talking to you guys about this. We want to get into negotiations with this, but you need to keep this on the hush. And they decided to take it public, and I think that was most likely the issue there, to be honest. Because Tyrone Woodley, the chance of Tyrone Woodley and Nate Diaz just making that up out of the blue, I don't believe that for a second. So I think that Dana's seen it as, you know, going to the public with things before they were announced. And there's a huge problem with things leaking before the UFC can announce them recently, honestly. And maybe he just wanted to put the cap on that. So, I mean, I don't know. But, man, what'd you guys think of Kyle Nelson? I hadn't seen a lot of that guy's fights till here recently, and I can't wait to see him enter the UFC. I think he's a threat at featherweight and at 155. I know there's a lot of killers in both those divisions, but the reflexes, the transitions, the guy's obviously got a lot of skill. Looks like he's going to be on the next Canadian UFC card. I don't know if he'll be on the main card or the prelim card. Gong Kwando says, shoot, thanks for that surprise guest today, Mike. Kyle was no slots, 12-1 and on a 6-fight win streak. Yeah, I didn't know a whole lot about him until recently. My good friend Ian Brewster introduced us. I'm going to have him on tonight, actually, at 6 p.m. I had announced 7 before. I had mixed it up with the Canadian time because it's 6 o'clock. It's 9 o'clock his time. And Ian Brewster, that guy needs no introduction. But he's the director of Firepower Capital, one of the largest financial institutions in Canada. He's an official advisor to Canada. And we're going to ask him tonight, are you part of the Illuminati? Are you part of the New World Order? No, I'm just kidding. But the reason fight fans should care about him is he was the former operating officer for W1 MMA, which was by far the biggest league MMA league in Canada. It was supposed to be their version of the UFC. They even had deals with Fox Canada. And then they had, I think, like 4 or 5 events. And I'd like to ask them some questions about that because I actually don't have all the details of what happened there. So I can't wait to talk to him tonight. Ghost Protocol with this camera angle. Oh my god, dude. I'm getting a new light this week. I have a lamp over here in the corner, and it's too much light. I have it turned back up against the wall, but I'm gonna get a backlight. I just got the camera. I got my mic set up and everything, and I got to get the light hopefully this weekend and put that behind me, and that'll make it to where I should be able to set up a little bit of a better camera angle. Hey, how's it going, Zoltan? Yeah, we've seen that. We're just talking about that. Jon Jones free to fight. It's not official, but yes, February 27th, he'll be meeting before the commission. His manager believes, he said that there was a 95% chance that he would win the hearing and that his suspension would be time served. So, I mean, what do you guys think about that? I want to see him in the cage personally, selfishly, as an MMA fan. But, I mean, who's he going to fight? Save my money for pizza. Never a better use of money than pizza. I agree with you there, Pixel Protocol. But, I mean, does he go up to heavyweight and fight DC again? If I'm DC, if I beat Stipe Miocic, and we all know he's getting a boatload of money because he refused the fight at first, and then they came to him with more money, and he's like, okay, you got a deal. So I think if he beats Stipe Miocic, if I'm him, I ride into the sunset. I'm not sure why he'd want to fight Jon Jones again. I mean, obviously, if he beats Jon Jones, it kind of vindicates him a little bit, but then he's still only won 1 out of 3. Are they going to fight a 4th time, a 5th time? DC said he's not going to fight past 40, so obviously that's not the case. He's 39 now. He's got, less than a year to fight, and that Ultimate Fighter is going to take a decent amount of time out of that. Make him fight Nagano as punishment. Says Reload. Mike really knows some killers. I've been lucky reaching out to some guys. I did have a couple connections that helped me connect with some other people. Can I be your co-host? Hey, maybe we can do a split thing sometime with some of you guys. I don't know. I'd like to bring in some of you guys that are regulars on here if you're interested in the future when we have some spaces. Do something different on every Thursday, hopefully. But I just had another guy reach back out to me. You guys that have been watching the UFC for a while, you've heard the name Joe Diesel Riggs. And I kind of thought he was ignoring me. I reached out to him about 5 days ago, and he messaged me today, gave me his personal phone number, and said, call me. So if you know Joe Diesel Riggs, I think he's a man of his word, and I'm planning on having him on the show very soon. And a lot to talk about with that guy. I mean, he fought some of the absolute pioneers of the sport. How do I think I would go in today's UFC? Jones doesn't deserve Nagano, says Sultan. I agree. I mean, I don't know that he deserves to be fighting at all. I don't really think he does, but selfishly, like I said, I don't mind seeing him again. He doesn't deserve Nagano, you're right. Sean O'Malley's a beast. I'd like to see more of him. think about going into today's UFC, man, it is transitioning so quickly. Honestly, I just think I don't go. Unless I think I'm the best fighter in the world. To me, there's still not enough money in it, especially as many killers that are out there. There's only a few guys making the money. When I was, 30 years old, I looked back and thought, man, I wish, the sport would have been where it's at now when I was 20. Now that I'm almost 40, I think I have a little more insight, and I just don't want to get punched in the head for that amount of money, especially by Francis Ngannou. Jesus Christ. Familiar with Bad Brad Hefton or the old PKA as Dean? Actually, it does not ring a bell. Sorry. I don't like the idea that Jones is paying lawyers who are likely paying officials under the table to say it was unintentional and overturn it because he has no job or career path. If not, he's all in, says Zoltan. I agree. I mean, they're trying to say the tainted supplement again. But, I mean, this is kind of third strike, you're out. This guy has gotten away with so much BS. I mean, the cocaine issues, the black eye for the UFC with hitting the pregnant lady while he was under the influence of drugs and money in the car, running away from the scene. I mean, that's one of the stupidest things you could ever do. And then you test positive for cocaine, but they're like, oh, it was out of competition. And then you pop positive twice now for PEDs. The first time he says it was those gas station erectile pills. Then, this time I guess it was somebody says, oh, well, the fats that they put the creatine on, sometimes they put cocaine on them in China. Well, does that mean every fighter that's ever tested positive that took creatine, you can just say, oh, well, there's, tainted supplements, they exist. So doesn't that if you exemplify him, don't you kind of have to exempt everyone? I mean, that just kind of takes the point out of the testing to me. And a local private lie test in his own town, so dumb. Yeah, that was incredible. And I thought DC's comeback was incredible, saying, Ted Bundy also passed a lie detector test. So you're right, RS. Money rolls everything for sure. Should have been a police or FBI test. I don't think he passes that test. Money only rolls gold diggers who have STDs. Yeah, I wouldn't doubt if that guy's got a list of them. I mean, I can just imagine the partying that guy does. I'm pretty sure he has a family. I'm pretty sure he's married. He might not have children. I know he was married. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'd like to see him fight again selfishly because he's a great competitor, but a part of me really wants to see him fight just so he gets knocked out. I'd like to see him get knocked out by Stipe Miocic. Married with 2 kids, says Zoltan. I thought, yeah, his brothers are in the NFL. I mean, that guy's got such incredible genetics. I mean, yes, he has the perseverance of a champion. I mean, he could have quit when Vitor Belfort had him in that arm bar and his arm was almost double extended over. He could have quit when you had the situation with Alexander Gustafsson, where he's probably behind in the fight and he has to fight through to win those last 3 rounds to pull out that decision. And some people still thought it was a close enough decision that maybe it should have went to Gustafsson. He definitely has the fortitude, but he's an animal. RS, I would like to see him get his arm broken. You and a few other people. Sultan says Stylebender looks a lot like Jones. Yeah, for sure. Go Kwando says, good point, Mike. Do you think other fighters know where the cocaine is? Maybe like Nick Diaz says, all you MMFers are on cocaine. I think Nick Diaz just knows where the weed is, and I'm pretty sure that's not a performance enhancer. If I'm going to fight you, take all the weed you want before we go into the cage. All of it. Yeah, Vitor should take more roids. Taking more roids for that fight and broke that shit. Oh man, yeah, that's another guy. How many times was he popped? And now you look at him after the TRT exemption is gone, and I mean, he just looks like a deflated human being. He doesn't even look like anything like an athlete. It's amazing the difference. With Jones versus Gustafsson draw, I think people would pay for that because you can definitely build that fight because you show replays of the first fight. You keep on showing, the disappointment, the split decision, and everything. Yeah, there's money to be made in that fight, absolutely, and that's definitely one of his prospective opponents, without a doubt. But I don't know. I don't know if that's the fight that people want to see. We will see. The eye poke. We're going to talk about that again. I know that we were all watching it and we all talked about it, but with Li Zhengli, they talked about it on Joe Rogan with Brendan Schaub on there a couple days ago. And Joe Rogan says, I think the guy should be suspended. He should be suspended. He should be fined. Here's my thing on it. I say you take his bonus. You take his $50,000 bonus, at least this time, and you give it to his opponent. And the next time he does it, yeah, he's either suspended or he's out. I mean, that's just not something you can be dealing with. You cannot have 6 fingers in somebody's eye. You're going to cause permanent damage. And I would even compare it to the way that Romar Palhares held onto those leg locks too long and caused ligament damage 2-3 times. Roy Nelson versus Matt Mitrione. Have I ever inhaled? So, I don't like to smoke, honestly. I don't like anything to do with smoking, so I don't smoke weed just because I don't like the idea of smoking anything. Roy Nelson versus Matt Mitrione. I got Mitrione. I expected him to win the whole thing. He was my number 1 seed coming into this. Roy Nelson was my number 2. Matt Mitrione was interviewed this week, actually. I was just looking at that he said, at first, he's like, is there any seeding or is this just randomness? Because he says, I thought I was the number 1 seed. Roy Nelson's kind of the 2. Why wouldn't we be fighting in the championship? And then he came out and said, well, you know what? If I'm going to win it, I'm going to have to beat Roy Nelson either way, so what does it matter? But for ratings and Bellator and everything, I mean, I thought that was not a very smart move because I think if you would have seeded the tournament, like Matt said, I think the ratings there towards the end are a lot better. I'm not sure what match you're going to end up with in the end, but I think the finals of Matt Mitrione versus Roy Nelson get a lot better ratings than Matt Mitrione versus Frank Mir, honestly. But, I mean, I don't know. I guess that remains to be seen. Jones should have to fight Gustafsson again, and if Jones wins, then tell him Gustafsson is given a title shot just to piss him off. Yes, everybody does underestimate Roy Nelson. Roy Nelson versus Roy Nelson's one of my favorite fighters. Honestly, I mean, as a fan, I would love to see Roy win the whole tournament. Who do you guys think wins that fight? Obviously, we're going to do it here on Friday. We're going to do the live stream for that event. That's going to be a lot of fun. And I can't wait to call that fight. That's going to be incredible. Roy Nelson, too old, known for his boxing is slower than used to be. Used to be a big fan. I'm still a big fan. Yes, he definitely is slower than he used to be. I guess my hope is just that he can kind of turn the clock back one more time. But I know the odds are kind of against it, and that's why I say Mitrione probably wins the whole tournament. Ryan Bader going to win everything, RS. Yeah, he's definitely the dark horse in that one. He could definitely beat any of these guys. That big right overhand can KO anybody for sure. Mitrione was favorite to win whole tournament by 100,000 voting. Yeah, could be Ryan Bader though, and if Roy Nelson gets past Matt Mitrione, I mean, could be him. I don't know. But Of course, right after that, we got Friday Bellator. Sunday, we got UFC. We got Donald Cerrone versus Anthony Medeiros. Yeah, I see Bader being most skilled and still improving. Definitely. The guy's a beast. Guy's got a ton of skill. For sure. He's not as big as some of these other guys. He's fought a lot of his fights at 205, and that's why I still say Mitrione's the favorite. But, I mean, you never know what's going to happen when they step inside the cage. I'd love to see Roy go to Jenny Craig and drop to 155 to fight McGregor. He said he was going to drop to 205, and then nothing became of it. I just think he just doesn't have the willpower. So, I don't know. Undercard of the UFC fight coming up on Sunday is Derek Lewis. And he was very honest in an interview on MMA Junkie. They were asking him what he was eating today, you know, what his pre-fight meals were. And he says, well, after this, I'm going to go across the street to McDonald's. He says, I'm going to get 2 double cheeseburgers, a small fry, and a large Diet Coke. So I thought that was pretty funny and nice that, you know, he was honest. And he said he cuts about 20 pounds. So he walks around about 285. And he'll come into that fight at 265. But that night, I'm guessing he'll be 275, 280. That guy's a huge dude. You just made me imagine a belly with legs and nothing else. If Bader, a UFC light heavyweight gatekeeper, is the Bellator heavyweight champion, that makes Bellator look weak AF, says Post Reload. Oh, for sure. What about DC, man? Hell yeah. You mean like DC, Daniel Cormier? I think that's going to be a great fight between him and Stipe Miocic. I picked Stipe. They're my 2 favorite fighters, but I picked Stipe. I just don't see anybody beating Stipe Miocic last night or right now. But if anybody can do it, it's Daniel Cormier. For sure. I hope they put Rory McDonald in tournament as alternate because I want to see how a smaller guy would do. That would be interesting. He looked like Mike from Monsters Incorporated. Oh, I love it. I love it. What do you guys think Sunday? Of course, we're going to do the UFC. Big weekend. Friday, UFC on Sunday. Donald Cerrone versus Anthony Medeiros. Donald comes in almost even. Donald Cerrone's a minus 150 favorite, but that's not very big. A lot of people are saying Donald Cerrone's had too many distractions, doing TV, doing movies. What do you guys think? He's constantly fighting, too, at the same time. The guy's just a crazy man. If DC beats Miocic, it's the same thing if Ryan Bader wins the tournament. Says, I don't know. I don't know about that. DC's undefeated as a heavyweight. He won the heavyweight Grand Prix, dominated Josh Barnett, and Josh Barnett was looking pretty good in that tournament. Zoltan says, at GKD, haha, exactly how I saw it, but not an eye, just belly button. Plus, real, I'd hate to get beat up by a man named Yancey, just saying. For sure. That, yeah, I guess you learn how to fight with a name like Yancey. So, there was a lot of people that were beat up by a guy named Yancey, I guess, though. And then you got Derek Lewis and Marcin Tybura coming in there. Derek Lewis, of course, dude's a killer. I mean, he could hang with anybody. He says he could beat Francis Ngannou. He says Francis Ngannou doesn't have the gas to go with him. But he actually comes into this fight a slight underdog to Marcin Tybura. I was a little surprised by that. Derek Lewis, I mean, it's slight. It's plus 120, but I expected him to be close to a 2-1 favorite, to be honest. Maybe there's something I don't know. What's up, Comedic Genius? How you doing, man? Did you see the interview with Kyle Nelson? That guy was awesome. DC top 5 all time. Don't even compare him to Bader. Absolutely. DC, the dude is just amazing. And imagine Jon Jones. If Jon Jones had fought at a different time, or Jon Jones never fought, and it's just Daniel Cormier, he's probably thought of as the greatest pound-for-pound fighter maybe ever. I mean, the guy never lost to anybody that didn't fail multiple drug tests, and that's that one guy. So the guy's amazing, and he's an awesome role model. DC ran away from Bader, RS says. Sultan Bellator, I don't think is worried about UFC guys becoming champs and looking weak. The strategy of bringing in UFC guys is working. Oh, for sure. There's so many fights out there right now. There's so much going on in boxing, too, with Deontay Wilder. Tyson Fury just said that he's ready to come back. You got a lot of good guys out there right now. There's never been a better time to be a fight fan. It's like there's something going on every weekend. I can't even keep up with it all. I think it's awesome. Some people say it's too much. I think it's absolutely incredible. And we're in like another golden age of fighting. UL versus DC, who you got? That's interesting. I think that's a matchup that you can make. Some people might say that UL's too small, but he's a huge 185er. And if they fight at 205, they're around the same age. Good question, man. That's a tough one. Honestly, I think I'd say Yoel Romero. Fallon Fox is a man and should be banned in WMMA. Oh, absolutely. Has Fallon Fox fought recently? I've noticed a few of your guys' comments on that. I thought after he lost to a woman, I thought he was done, but I don't know. GKD says, Mike, will Fallon Fox get signed with the UFC eventually? I mean, it's time they sign more transgender athletes. Oh, God, I hope not. Eubanks Jr. versus Grove is coming up soon. Yes, that's going to be a good one. Man, there's a ton of boxing matches coming up. We got a Cinco de Mayo match. What was it? I heard a rematch between Triple G and Canelo, I think, today. Obviously, Triple G, I thought, won that convincingly, and he got ripped off, but, man. New UFC won't sign that ass, says Sultan. You can't seem to bet against Yoel now. Every time I think Yoel is going to lose, he ends up pulling it off. Well, so how good is Robert Whittaker? Robert Whittaker, remember, beat Yoel Romero. I know Yoel Romero is almost 40 years old, and he wasn't in his prime when he entered the UFC, but, I mean, how good is that guy? And if Yoel Romero wins the second match, I mean, that's just great for the UFC, especially if it's an entertaining fight, because it sets up a trilogy match. And there'll be questions if Robert Whittaker was 100% healthy. And what about, I wish the timing was different, because I don't think that they would be able to, but what about those guys coaching an Ultimate Fighter? That would be incredible too. RS says, I still look for the day a woman fights a man. Oh my God. Yeah, I'm not with you on that one, RS. Seven said, isn't there a pretty big boxing fight this weekend? Yes, there is. I was looking at it earlier. I can't remember what it is. I'm sure Cap knows. Cap, can you tell me who's fighting this weekend? Is that the one you were talking about with Groves and Eubanks? That's what I was thinking. I'm looking to stream something on Saturday because I want to do a 3-stream weekend. Friday with Bellator, Sunday with the UFC. There's some other things going on Saturday. You got Alaska Fighting Championships, which you guys might know about, but it's actually pretty entertaining. You got the Eddie Bravo International, I believe, which is only on UFC Fight Pass. And then you got some boxing on Saturday. Let's see. Rogan CM Punk 223. I heard what Rogan said about that. And they were Brendan Schaub was saying he'd kill CM Punk. Oh, and then Mayweather. It sounds like Mayweather's trying to put together a fight with CM Punk. Talk about a stupid money grab. That's just ridiculous. Some women can beat some men, RS says. Have you seen Frank Mir's daughter? She has been beating boys in wrestling tournaments. No, I haven't, but good for her. My daughter's beat some boys in wrestling tournaments too. She's in high school, so I think so. Let me check Box Rec real quick. Thanks, Cap. Salt in my heart. Oh my God, my heart, Rogan. I mean, he is 50 years old, which is hard to believe. But give me just a second here, guys. I'm having a little bit of a dry throat. I need to get something to drink. I need a little sign for my water and bathroom breaks. It says, fights with friends, will be right back. I don't know why I've been having such a dry throat recently, but the air's been really dry here in the winter, so I get some bad acid reflux. I think that's the issue here. Comedic Genius says, but you'd watch it. No, I would. Oh, God. You want to talk about some women getting hit? I was thinking about posting this and commenting on it, but I didn't. But a week ago here in Seattle, actually, University of Washington, some Antifa people, was about 10 or 15 of them, were dressed up in black and black masks, and they were pepper spraying people and beating them with batons. And this big Samoan dude steps up and just starts popping people. You guys got to look it up. Maybe I'll post a link to it. I'll find it. But yeah, he just starts popping people, and then they just start pulling off their masks and kind of start crying. I mean, all 10 of them are just running from this big Samoan dude. I think it was Mark Hunt's brother. Ray Rice Invitational. Oh my God. Guys are horrible sometimes. Antifa are fascists. Antifa, yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, like Cap and like I think Zoltan, a lot of us have talked about as far as politics, I mean, that whole team mentality BS is just, you got it on both sides. You have those idiots in Charlotte with the frickin' Home Depot torches, and then you have people on the other side dressing up in black and vandalizing crap, and yeah, just not a good thing for sure. Changing subjects though, who do you guys have? Derek Lewis versus Marcin Tybura. I can't wait to see Derek Lewis get in there again. I don't feel like I've seen enough of Marcin Tybura to call him a favorite or close to a betting favorite against Derek Lewis, but I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm missing something. What's going on, Joker? Thanks for tuning in, man. Watch my interview earlier with Kyle Nelson. That guy's an up-and-coming featherweight. He could be a future champion coming out of Canada. RS says Lewis. That's my pick, too. We'll leave you guys with one more thing today. Here in about 20 minutes, I'm going to have Ian Brewster on. Like I said, he's the director of Firepower Capital, the largest institution in Canada. He's a direct consultant to the government of Canada, but he was also the chief operating officer for W1 MMA, the largest MMA organization in the history of Canada. I see 2 potential heart attacks. That's for sure, says GKD. Oh, yeah, for sure, Punky Brewster. But this is what Ian sent me in Messenger. I'm going to read this to you guys when he was introducing me to Kyle Nelson. And this was just through Messenger. Now, if I can find it, he says, "Hey, Kyle, please meet Michael. He is a gentleman that wants to interview you before your next UFC World Champion. Mike, as you know, Kyle is a goddamn machine and a super great guy. He wants to be on your show and talk about beating other people up for money." So I thought that was pretty great. We all know there's a lot of, great people and great athletes in MMA, but at the end of the day, that's about as simplistic as it gets, is, they're beating people up for money, and we're watching it, and we enjoy it. I enjoy it for sure. MICIA. Speak about Florida school shooting. Let me come back to that one for a second. I thought about that a little bit today. If you're asking, the answer is yes. Hillary Foundation, so watch out. Cap, Eubanks Jr. versus Groves this Saturday, Mike. Do you know what it's on, what channel it's on, Cap, so I can find it? Because I will definitely do that on Saturday. I don't know if it's... I have HBO, I have ESPN. Sky Sports. I'm going to have to look it up to see if I get a... I'm not sure I have that one. And I'm not sure if it's Sky Sports in the States. Maybe there is still a Sky Sports in the States. Maybe I'm thinking of BT Sport. That's a international thing. But if I can watch it and get a stream to it, I definitely will do something. We'll definitely do something on Saturday. Hopefully it's that fight, because I've been looking forward to it too. Yes, we are doing Bellator on Friday. We got the UFC on Sunday. I want to do a show every single day this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I wish I could do that every week, and we're probably going to end up doing that a lot of weeks here coming up. We'll have the MMA Live at 5 every Thursday, where I want to try to have new people to interview every Thursday. And then, shows every single weekend. Hopefully Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, whether it be boxing, MMA, whatever it is. Sky Sports is Germany. BT Sports is UK, I thought. Okay, so I don't know where it is over here. Sean White is a legend, says Zold. Man, I know that's not MMA, but how proud are we as Americans to watch that final run? I mean, he had 2 740s, I think, and just the incredible airtime. That was just an absolute perfect run, and that guy's one of the greatest athletes in Winter Olympics history for sure. Yeah, that was awesome to watch. Interview me, I'll talk about nothing I'm good at. RS says Florida shooting is just a result of USA gun policies. Yeah, I don't think we have enough time to go into that so much right now. The only thing I will say is, obviously it's a very sad situation. My thoughts and prayers, of course, are with those families that are dealing with this catastrophe, this terrorist attack, let's call it what it is, by a sick, deranged individual. And I am a pro-gun guy. I'm a member of the NRA. Here's one thing I would like to see, though. If you're going to have these kinds of guns out here, and I believe this was AR-15. To buy it at 18 years old, I think is absolutely crazy. You can't buy alcohol at 21, but you can buy an AR-15. So let's make the first step in this. If you're going to do anything, you can't buy handguns at 21. Let's make sure that people under 21 can't buy AR-15s, can't buy SKSs, can't buy, I hate the word assault style weapon because anything can be an assault weapon. My fist is an assault weapon. Francis Nagano's fist is a pretty dangerous assault weapon. This stuff doesn't happen often in Europe, RS. I know that for sure. Dean says, I think perhaps the Florida attack was at least a distraction. Post from my cold dead fingers, #NRA. I don't see the issue with making people wait until they're 21 to buy an AR-15 or an SKS. If you're going to let them buy guns when they're 18, let's make a special class. Not just say there's guns that you can't buy. I would rather them say there's guns that you can buy and limit it to like the 22 long rifle, maybe a shotgun, obviously nothing modified, and that's about it. I mean, give them a 22. That's it. They can go out and plink and target practice. Other than that, BB gun. I don't know. Zoltan says, I wear American flag bandana, Rand Paul 2020 wife beater, and dual-wield AA 12s while riding killer whales. Oh, my God. Well, I'm a Rand Paul fan for sure. RS says guns should be illegal. They kill more people than they save. Well, that's an opinion that's not. Excuse me. That's an opinion not real popular in the States right now. Sorry. Join the military at 18, kill for blood, good old Junkie Sam. It was just another false flag, just like McGregor versus Mayweather too. I don't know. No, definitely not vodka. Just some water, some dry throat. I don't think I'm going to have any alcohol today. So I think I'm going to wrap this one up a little early. I got to get a hold of Ian Brewster, check our sound system. I told him I'd call him a few minutes before to make sure that we're on board. So stick around. I'm going to be going live again here in around 10 minutes with Ian Brewster. Like I said, Director of Firepower Capital in Canada, direct consultant for the country of Canada, and former chief officer for W1 MMA, the biggest MMA organization in Canada history. So tune in for that at 6. I'm going to try to clear my throat and get Ian on the line. I'll see you guys in a few minutes.